Welcome, craft beer friends, to Season 8, Episode 6 of Tap to Craft Podcast. I am Denny Luce, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man, also known as Drinking Eagle, from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How you doing tonight, Chris? And what is in your glass?
So that Drinking Eagle thing is getting it's getting to the point where it's still funny every time, even though our discussion we had a couple episodes ago. It's like, when I give out my Twitter handle at the end of every show.
Yeah.
But I'm doing really well. It was a long, tiring day of, well, it was kind of quiet today, which I hated and loved all at the same time. And I was really looking forward to just taking the time to sit on here and chat about some beer with you today.
That's right.
And in my glass tonight, I'm actually drinking an Ohio beer from Wolf's Ridge Brewing, and it's their coffee vanilla Direwolf. And Direwolf is one of their, I know a lot of people seek this beer out, and I am sad to say that I'm a little disappointed, but I think this might be my fault. Okay. This might be my fault. Now, this was bottled, if I remember the date correctly, May 21st of this year.
Okay, so it's a little bit old.
It is a little on the older side. There is not much coffee flavor in here. There is a lot of roastiness to it that could be from the coffee, but I don't really get any of those coffee flavors. The vanilla is definitely there, but this one's clocking in at about 10%. I've got a whole, since we were going OG with no video recording, I went OG for the 24-ounce bomber or whatever, 22-ounce bomber, right?
Nice.
And it's still really good, really roasty, not super sweet, and the vanilla kind of offsets that roastiness a little bit. So I decided that this is going to be my sipper for the show.
Okay.
I had my last bottle of Space Dust with dinner and right before we got on from Elysian, and then I'm just gonna sip on this beer while we're drinking and talking this evening. So, but enough about me, Denny. What about you? How was your day? How are you doing today? And what's in your glass?
Well, my day went fantastic, and I'm doing well. I am a little disappointed because even though our listeners don't know this, we are recording just 30 minutes early than normal, and we're not on Facebook today because Facebook was down, and when it did come back up shortly before we started recording, but it sounds like there's still some issues with their services, and so we didn't want to do the live video for this show. So that's why we are not live on video, but we are doing it 30 minutes early because I was supposed to have one of my Navy buddies come through town today, and I want to make sure we were done recording before he showed up. And he was already planning on coming through around 8 o'clock our time here in Boise area. And he's doing some hunting in Laramie, Wyoming, and it looks like he got a late start. I think he went out to go do last-minute hunting this morning, and he was hoping to leave Laramie by 10 a.m. so he can get to Boise by about 8 p.m. And it turns out that he probably didn't leave Laramie until noon or 1 o'clock because it's now 6 o'clock-ish Boise time, and he's just hitting the Wyoming Utah border. So it's probably more like midnight, 11 o'clock midnight. And you know what? Sorry, Mike, but yeah, that's way too late for me. I mean, even 9 o'clock would be late, but I would do it and sacrifice it for him. I haven't seen him since his wedding.
Which was how long ago?
That was over 20 years ago.
So, okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a long time, and I'm super looking forward to seeing him, even if it's only for an hour just to get together. But he did say that because he has another tag that he needs to fill, that he will be making another trip out towards the Wyoming-Montana border area, and he'll let me know. And in that trip, he will focus on making sure he has enough time to spend a good quality session. We can do some drinking too, hopefully.
Nice.
And not just driving through, because he was going to come stop, visit with me, and he was going to keep driving on through. He lives in Dallas, Oregon, and he was going to keep driving. And that's another, 7.5, 8 hour, maybe 9 hour drive, depending on how fast you're driving and what you're driving. He might, I don't know if he's driving a truck with with a camper in the back or what the deal is, but sometimes you can't drive as fast as you can with a regular car.
No.
But yeah, so that's why I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm happy that that at least we've reconnected and that now we have an opportunity to see each other in the future. So that's I'm staying on a high note. And with that being said, I am drinking a local Boise beer. It's from Woodland Empire Alecraft, and it's called Old Boise Brand Lager. And it's got this nice old timey label.
It
And
looks
I've yeah,
very Milwaukee's best.
yeah, it looks like Milwaukee's best, but in a different color scheme, slightly different. This is more gold and yellow with a little red trim, like red and black trim on it. It looks
Hmm.
really nice. And the beer itself is really, really clear. It's a hazy, it's a little bit fuzzy glass, a little sweaty glass, but really nice. This is 16-ounce cans. They're selling it for $7.49. It's like under $8 for a six pack of 16-ounce cans of this lager.
Wow.
I couldn't pass it up. And I think I'm just going to go buy a bunch more because this is a really good lager, clean, refreshing, easy drinking. You drink one, you just want to drink another one. It's a very good beer, and I'm glad that not only is it available as a local offering, but it's a good beer and right now super cheap. So bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really get much better than $7.50, $8 for a 6-pack of
or a 6-pack of 16-ounce cans.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's one beer I'm drinking. I will also be breaking out Boneyard Beer out of Bend. I think we mentioned briefly a few months ago that they were bought out by Deschutes. Maybe not bought out. They combined forces, like had a union. They're both Bend breweries, and Deschutes decided to take on Boneyard Beer. Now Boneyard Beer has the luxury of being distributed with Deschutes distribution. So they are now in Boise, and they're having the problem right now is that you have to go to different places to get different beers. So I just picked up a 6-pack of the RPM IPA, which is their flagship IPA. So I'll be drinking that later in the show as well. So yeah, and Oktoberfest from Sierra Nevada. I keep buying 6-packs of that Sierra Nevada. That's the best Oktoberfest that's right now that I can drink that I really enjoy. I think I mentioned that before on.
And we did the tasting notes on that. Well, you did the tasting notes on that one a couple of episodes ago when I was out playing COVID.
That's right.
And couldn't taste anything.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. And so have you had a chance to pick up this Oktoberfest?
No, I've been doing so I kind of go in ebbs and flows. Like I'll lean on Tavor a lot to get stuff, fill up the cooler, maybe with stuff that I can't get, like this Direwolf that I'm drinking that came from them. And then I'll get away from Tavor because, money. And then then I'll start leaning more towards local stuff. Like I think I was drinking Berry House stuff last episode, or I went into my local Total Wine and More the other day.
Decided to buy some old beer.
Actually, what I bought, usually, Denny, I wouldn't buy. I bought 2 bottles of Lunch from Maine Brewing.
And it was fresh?
It was brewed. It was bottled on September 21st. And I went, I have to.
Oh, nice.
I think it was like $8 for a 500 milliliter bottle, or it might even be a little bigger than that. But I said, I have to buy it.
Didn't Jeff Seiler or somebody mention that they might be doing some brewing or bottling in the North Carolina area or something like that? Or did someone mention that?
Maine Brewing?
Yeah. Maybe I'm dreaming it.
Oh,
it
so
like somebody mentioned
Jeff was talking about getting Magnanimous Brewing up his way, which is here in Tampa.
Yeah, he did have Magnanimous. I was thinking he said something about Maine Brewing too or something. Maybe I'm mistaken. I probably am. But hey, if they are, let us know, Jeff, or Mike Allen as well. But Mike's in Georgia, I guess.
Yeah, Mike's. I don't know. I mean, he might get.
He might know. Yeah,
he might get some of it out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what, Chris? We've been chatting quite quite a bit, and we haven't even started the show. So let's get the show started. But like always, before we get into the meat of the show, I always want to let any new listener to Tap the Craft podcast know what we are all about. We are an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer because we want to assist you, our listeners, along in your craft beer journeys and adventures. And you're listening to episode 188, recording on Monday, October 4th, 2021. And we are not live on Facebook tonight, as I already mentioned, but we are normally live on Facebook on the Monday before we release a show. And if you want to join in and watch the show being made and comment in the comments, so we can go ahead and read your comments as we record, you can do that. Just join us on Facebook on the Monday before we record. And in this episode, we are going to discuss the history of homebrewing. And I was kind of at a loss for a topic I wanted to do. Although we will talk about Jeff Seiler. He did leave us some feedback, but before I read the feedback that he left us, I had already come up with this topic. So I figured I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. But when we get to his feedback email, he has a pretty good idea, and I think we can do some stuff with that.
So I've got your topic for next episode too, by the way.
Oh, okay.
GABF.
No, because it kind of, I mean, we normally do a GABF, but they did kind of a weird thing, and they combined the homebrewers, I think the homebrewers conference, whatever, and the beer awards, and it was kind of like a under the table type thing, and because Idaho didn't win any medals, I just don't want to talk
there's the answer. There's the answer. Yeah.
So, I mean,
the truth comes out.
If you want to put together the show, Chris, by all means, put together the show and we'll do it. But I'm not going to waste my time on it.
Because Idaho didn't win anything.
Yeah.
I figure, look, we don't even have to do a whole show on it. I think just touching on a couple of the states. I'm sorry, we won't be touching on Idaho because they lost.
I just don't know how many people put in for it. Again, it's during this weird time.
I will work on getting you some info about this year.
Okay.
And we'll do a little. How about we do a little snippet on it maybe next episode?
We'll do a small segment on it for sure. Yeah. We'll combine it with maybe a segment that Jeff mentioned. So we'll do like a couple mini segments. All right. And Chris and I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters because this episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, William Schlimmer, and Amanda and Kevin Argauer, who are our virtual producers, and Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Tara Carlson, Chad Lamassa, Mark Church, Matt Knight, and Eric Gronley, who want to buy us a virtual beer. And if you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your host or buying us a virtual beer, or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. And as I already mentioned, Jeff Seiler wrote us an email. Chris, you want to go ahead and read what Jeff Seiler had to say?
Certainly. So Jeff wrote us and he said, I just listened to episode 186 on New World hops. Excellent show, guys. Thank you, Jeff. The hop descriptions were great, especially the different flavor profiles. Now I know what hops to look for if I want tropical, citrus, or even cedar, mint, and coconut. Yeah, that was a pretty cool hop.
Yeah.
And some other newish hops like Cashmere, Strata, Enigma, and Riwaka. Waka waka. And speaking of other episodes, if you're ever looking for a show topic, you could do like Sesame Street and say, the next show will be brought to you by the letter A, for instance, he said. Then you could talk about breweries and beers you both like that start with the letter. And folks watching and listening could chime in with their favorites too. It could be fun. There. That's 26 episodes for you. A whole year of Tap the Craft. Literally. That is an entire year. Today's show is brought to you by the letter A. Okay. Anyways, hope everyone is well and healthy. And just know your listeners do appreciate all the work it takes to get these podcasts out. Cheers, guys, and thanks.
Well, cheers, Jeff, and thank you for the feedback. Yeah, cheers. Raise that glass.
Well, I would do it when you and I can see it. I'm so used to doing it now.
I know. No one can see what we're doing, but maybe you'll release the video on YouTube.
I mean, I do have it. Yeah, you know what? I'm backed up on videos.
You're backed up, but we can just start fresh from this one, maybe. just because we
Okay.
didn't give them the live. They don't have the live thing to look at. But I think this is a great idea. And how come I didn't think of it? We had to have a listener come up with this fantastic idea, even if they're not full blown segments as a whole brew buzz. This would
Mm-hmm.
be great to add in some content that we can provide a mini segment, just like you were going to do with the Great American Beer
Yeah.
Fest. And we can go through the whole alphabet and name a couple breweries and a couple beers that start with the letter A, B, C, whatever. It might get tough when it comes to X and
Z
V and
and
Z
well,
and
Z I got. Z, that one's easy. There's one here in Tampa
yeah,
that
yeah.
I'll use that one.
But for
Uh,
me, it'll be tough because I don't have any Z breweries
Q.
that I do. Yeah, Q might be tough. So great, great idea, and we are going to take this up. And starting next episode, we will have a segment for the letter A. So
Okay, well, here's the question then, because
okay.
I automatically thought, okay, well, maybe you don't have that brewery name that starts with the letter X.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to just combine it and say, well, hey, if we can do a brewery, great. If not, let's default to a beer and then talk about the brewery associated with that beer.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do that. I
We'll
mean,
kind of have to play it by
let's
ear, I think.
yeah, let's play it by ear. And if we have a brewery and a beer name that starts with the thing, we'll each give it. If not, we'll
Okay.
talk about the beer name, but we'll mention the brewery and maybe go into little details on that. We'll do a little small segment on the breweries too. It kind of gives us a little mini brewery spotlight. I won't go full depth into the background, but we can at least
Okay.
go. Now, can you do that, Chris? If you come up with your breweries, are you willing to just get a little small snippet of little details behind that brewery?
I mean, just getting information to put
Yeah.
into our notes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. All right. That's a deal. We'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's our feedback for this show. Short and sweet, but it was packed full of 26 episodes worth of content. So I really appreciate that. But if you want to be like Jeff and leave your comments, which were fantastic, or questions, or just give us some show ideas, you can do that very easily through email like Jeff did at tapthecraft@gmail.com, or follow us on Twitter or Instagram and add us at tapthecraft. And of course, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/tapthecraft, you can go ahead and add us. What is that? What do they do when they tag you or whatever? What's it called in Facebook when they put Tap the Craft in their posts?
Yeah. So they tag us in it. Yeah.
They tag it.
So
Yeah,
if they
tag us.
tag us at Tap the Craft, you can, or give us a mention if you just put what's the @ symbol and then start typing Tap the Craft podcast. It should auto populate and pop up. You click it, and then we get a notification for it. So
yeah. So lots of ways to go ahead and get your feedback. And of course, I don't want to forget to say, if you want your voice on the air and be part of the recording, you can do that by calling our voicemail number, 208-536-3359, or if it's easier for you to remember, 208-53-ODDLY. And if you don't have something to write down, don't worry. Just open up the info on your podcast player, and at the bottom, you'll find, or in the notes there, you'll find our voicemail number.
or go check out our Facebook page, and that actually the information's there too. That reminds me,
it's
though.
the phone number. Yeah, it's the phone number. So if you just go to our info, the phone number you call is our voicemail number. So just go to Facebook and push the button.
You can click it right on your phone. That also reminds me, Denny, we still need to do a giveaway for our last gift card with brewer shirts.
We do. So think of it, Chris. Maybe by the end of the show, you can announce what it is, and we can put it in motion.
I'm gonna make it up as I go along.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I do with life.
We got time. All right, Chris. Well, let's continue the conversation, because now it is time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untapped.
So remember, guys, if you want us to read your check-ins on Untapped, make sure you follow me. You should follow Denny too, but you should follow me so I can read these. Follow me on Untapped at MCK1345. Denny, I've got some really cool news about my personal Untapped account. I am 6 beers away from
1,000?
2,500.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn, big boy.
Yeah, well,
Holy
I'm almost at 3,000 check-ins, but almost
nice.
a couple more after I check in this beer that I'm drinking tonight. I'll be 5 away. And I'm trying to pick out, I've got a couple of special beers that I'd like to crack open and enjoy, but you're all the way in Boise, and I don't,
Yeah. I feel like I've been at 4,300 unique check-ins for like 3 years. It seems like I'm checking in a lot of beers, but my number never goes up. It stays
Well,
right
once
there.
you start getting past that 1,000 mark, it feels like it sits that way.
Yeah.
And then you look at it 6 months later and go, "Oh wow, I've got a few more on the list."
Hmm.
So let's start from 21 hours ago, since we were talking about magnanimous brewing. Mr. David Campbell, right here in Tampa, he's checking into a Truth or Consequences by Magnanimous Brewing, and I'm going to read through a lot of these quickly, guys. David did not leave ratings or
Oh.
notes
Oh my gosh.
as usual, but
Come
hey, he
on, man.
checked into that. Look, he checks into beers like Ariel Druck does.
Mm,
Not as much, but
yeah.
he checks into a few of them. So I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. Also, next on the list, Mr. Matt Knight, Skinny Matt, is drinking a dry hopped German Pils by Three Heads Brewing. And he said crisp with a bready flavor and a bit of hops on the end. Went great with dinner earlier tonight. It looks like dinner was sausage and banana pepper pizza. Um, Moving on up, I'm curious about this beer, but this flavor has, oh my gosh, I have a
Mm,
fun little story to tell you about this flavor. He's drinking a Death by Flapjacks by Oscar Blues Brewery. Now, I'm curious to know about Death by Flapjacks because what's the other beer that they do that's death? Oh, Death by Coconut.
oh, is this Iron Horse?
No, this is Oscar Blues.
No, no, Death by Coconut. You're right. You're right. They do the Death by Coconut. You're right.
But anyway, Matt wrote, "Wow, nice sweet maple flavor that isn't overbearing. That's what I'm looking for with maple flavor.
Hmm.
Got a hint of vanilla. Damn near tastes like I'm having a pancake. Excellent beer while playing some Halo Infinite with some buddies. 4.5 caps for that beer. Now, the fun story about dinner this evening, Megan Megan went to our local grocery store, or as people know it here in Florida, Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Um, she bought this seltzer mix pack.
Oh no. Oh no.
And I
Oh,
can't remember.
Is it the Wild Basin?
No, Wild
Oh.
Basin's good. I like that one. And it was, I want to say it was like a Bud Light seltzer mix pack,
Oh.
but it was based off of all fall flavors. And what she said got her was that the box was decorated like red and black flannel, like the brawny paper towel guy.
Oh yeah.
And she
Yeah.
said that
Nice.
caught my eye. And, I lovingly tell her she's a basic bitch all the time because she is all about pumpkin spice. Her and Tina are getting ready to go to Salem in a couple of days to, go have their girls trip and experience fall and Ugg boots and all that kind of fun stuff. But
Okay.
anyway, the beers she had, this one that she drank tonight was a maple and pear seltzer.
Okay.
Right off the bat, Denny, my brain automatically went maple and pear. Probably not. Look, there are a lot of things that I've tried in my life. This will not be one. I tried it. It was disgusting. It was disgusting. It tasted like artificial sweeteners, the most
Yeah.
fake maple flavor you could ever come up with. And pear, there was no pear. No, it was probably apple juice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and no, it was it was awful. If I was going to rate it on Untapped, I wouldn't.
So pear is a great flavor. I like pear in
Mm-hmm.
beer, but it's so subtle that it's like super delicate, and you
Yeah.
need to have it needs to be enough to be present, right? And I've never had the seltzers, so I can't speak to it. But what I've heard is a lot of people just say it's like carbonated, lightly like spritzed
Yeah.
juice, and it's very just carbonated bubbles basically is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
So getting pear to show up in that, it would be an act of God, dumping a pear like a bunch of pear extract
Yeah.
into a bottle to be able to get enough pear flavor
It'd
out of that.
probably
But
be great on its own, but then you
yeah,
dump
yeah, but the
maple on
maple,
top of
yeah,
it.
the maple,
No,
will give it an artificial sweetness
no,
to it. Yeah, that
it
wouldn't
was
be good.
gross. So 2 thumbs way down for that one. As my friend Dan Charlie would say, I'd trash it.
Well,
Uh,
is there a cinnamon apple
I don't
version?
know. I don't remember all the flavors that were in it, and
Yeah, I think that would be a good winter fall, you know, seltzer, right? Cinnamon
I'll text you a
apple cinnamon.
picture next time I think about it, just so we can make fun of her about it. Tom Byrne is drinking a Hot Tub Lifeguard by Bale Breaker Brewing Company. 3.5 caps for that beer. No notes on that one. But he's also drinking a Big Chungus by Workforce Brewing Company. He just said weekend beers. 20 hours ago. Yeah, that would have been Sunday, I guess, or early morning Monday. 4.25 caps for that beer. He also checked into a KBS Espresso from this year, and then gave that one 4.25 caps. Just wrote and some from a last week. Sure, I'll go with that. Let's see. Moving on up the list, David Martin is drinking a Mexican Cake 2020 by Westbrook Brewing Company. Still good from a can.
Is he in Florida?
I'm not sure where he is.
I mean, Westbrook's a Florida Miami brewery, right?
That is not correct.
It's not Westbrook is not Miami?
So David Martin's in Greer, South Carolina, if his profile is accurate. Westbrook, I want to say Westbrook is like Texas, like Midwest somewhere.
I could have swore it was Miami.
We were both wrong. Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
Oh, it's
so you were closer. Yeah, you were closer. But the Mexican Cake is good. I've had that one before.
I've heard about it. I've heard the Mexican Cake before. I think I probably heard it from you.
It might have been because it was. I know it's definitely one that I've sought out and tried to pick up, and so it's pretty good. Still good from a can. 4.25 caps for that beer. He also checked into a beer by Tripping Animals, which is in here in Florida. Men in Gray Suits, which the can art is pretty cool. It's got some sharks underwater swimming around on the can.
Oh yeah,
but
nice.
Cartoony looking, animated looking. 3.75 caps for that one. Will D, this is a good boat beer if it's fresh. Tropicana by Heavy Seas Beer out of Baltimore. 4.25 caps for that beer. No notes to go. Oh, he did write notes as the comment. Perfect after surf session beer. Did we go surfing, Will?
Wow.
He's in Jacksonville.
Okay. A little late for that, isn't it?
So if he's in Jacksonville, he'd be on the Atlantic coast. So that'd put him like right by like shark capital of the world, New Smyrna Beach. Mike Allen's doing a lot of drinking today at the Taco Mac, as he always does. Some highlights is going to be the Rowdy and Proud by Three Taverns Brewery. Nice and clean with a subtle hop character and bitterness. Simple, yet satisfying. It's a 4 cap rating from him. He also got one beer that he labeled average. Hop Legends North New England IPA by Iron Shield Brewing. Moving on up his list, Galactose by Gate City Brewing. Odd interplay of citrus and berry notes, but very enjoyable. 4 cap rating. And he got one. Yep. So he's got a little bit of everything in there, but those were kind of the highlights of what he had. Robert, or as we like to call him, Chew Your Beer, is drinking a TDH, which is triple dry hopped, with Azaka General Sherman IPA by Tioga Sequoia Brewing Company. Yeah, and he just writes, "Thanks, Wazoo Corvette." I'd guess that's a friend.
Gotta be.
4.25 caps for that beer. That's a hell of a name to go along with it, though. And triple dry hopped. I mean, it's a
little much.
That's a lot of hopping.
I don't need triple dry hops. I think 1 dry hop is usually sufficient. 2 is sometimes better. 3 might be overkill.
Well, so. I also wonder too is being that we're getting into autumn, Denny, are you getting any fresh hopped beers?
I'm getting a whole lot of fresh hop. I'm waiting for you to mention somebody having a fresh hop beer, but all the beer, everyone you're mentioning is, well, Robert is in California, so
right,
he's at least close by the Pacific Northwest to get some fresh hop stuff. But honestly, it's unless you're in a hop growing area, you're not going to get fresh hop beers unless a major regional brewery is making them and distributing them out. So it's going to be tough. I feel very lucky because I've got hop fields in Idaho, and we have a ton of fresh hop beers.
Well, interestingly enough, we're starting to produce hops here in Florida too. Seriously, okay.
Moldy hops? No, come on.
Here's a fun fact for you. Look,
cannot grow hops in Florida.
this is not the Yakima Valley, okay? But did you know that Florida is now the second largest producer of blueberries in the country? We can grow things down here like that, and we can grow them year round. And guess what? We couldn't produce blueberries before. Well, now
it's genetically modified stuff,
Yeah.
making it possible.
Yeah.
But hops, you can't have mildewy hops. It's just not going to work. And getting wet, like soaking wet every day, I don't know. It seems like it's
You live in the Pacific Northwest. Have you seen the fog that rolls through there?
no. There's no fog.
Get out of here.
We're fog free.
You're fog free. Yeah, your brain's fog free.
No, all the hops are grown in the desert area.
Really?
Keep in mind that Eastern Washington,
Okay.
Oregon, and all of Idaho pretty much is a desert. So Idaho is a highland desert, and then there's Rocky Mountain areas that have some high hills. Eastern Oregon from Bend on is all highland desert as well. And
Okay.
same with Washington State and Eastern Washington. So that's where all the hops are being grown. So on the east side of the Cascade Mountains is all desert.
Oh, I did
That's
not know
why.
that. I did not know that. Normally, from what I know, is that the hops will also grow in regions that produce a lot of wines too. So normally, when I picture wine producing regions, I mean, there used to be pretty good wines produced when we lived in Ohio, and there was mountain areas and just really lush green places. But then I also think of things like Napa Valley and things like that. So I just automatically assumed that they'd be producing hops in very similar situations. But maybe that would be some kind of hybrid hops, just because if you guys are producing hops in a more desert area, and then they're producing hops in places like Ohio that does have a fair amount of moisture, at least in the summer. I don't know. Maybe there's some.
It just means that the growing cycle is shifted, right?
Sure.
It's like you got a different growing, and you go and grow certain hops that are able to grow fast during that time frame and not linger in between. And maybe there is a hop strain that will do well in Florida. I don't know. It just seems like it's way too moist. I mean,
No,
it's hot.
I totally agree with you.
Right? You're gonna get that rain every day at 4:30, and then it's gonna heat up, and it's just gonna be like I don't know. It just seems like it's a tropical nightmare for
Denny.
hops.
There's a hop grower 1 county north of us.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
Okay,
I could be completely wrong.
We got to learn somehow.
Yeah, I want you to go visit. How far? 1 hour?
So it's in Dade City. Oh, there's a website. Dade City on a good day is 45 minutes from us. So I don't know. I'd go do that.
So you should have some fresh hop beers then.
That would be so awesome.
I bet you go to that area. There's probably a brewery that does have a fresh hop beer.
If there's not, man, they need to get on it.
Yeah. We got totally sidetracked.
Yeah, we certainly did. Next on the list, Mr. William Schlemmer is drinking a Mr. Stout's Raberhood by Lakefront Brewing or Lakefront Brewery. Great balance. Bourbon notes are pleasing, but not dominant. And 11.3% ABV that goes down smooth with no booziness, some sweetness, but not cloying. 4.5 caps for that beer. He purchased that at Ray's Liquor. Now, Denny, do you remember Ray's Liquor? That's where Wuck Finter came from.
That's right. Yeah, it's a beer store. I'm assuming. We never found out for sure, but I'm assuming it's a beer store. Yeah, that's where this beer right here for our video watchers.
Which is just you and I for right now.
I'm saving this bottle. It's
no,
awesome.
That's a cool bottle, especially it's like the short and stubby one. William, if you would be so kind, sir, as to please give our phone number a call and see if you can explain that. Like,
yeah, what's Ray's Liquors?
What's Ray's
Liquor?
Liquor?
Your beer store?
Tell us a little more about it.
Yeah.
In continuing his check-in streak for I don't know how many frickin' shows in a row now, Chad Lamassa is drinking a Snyder beer, a Pretzel Martin.
Oh.
By Captain Lawrence Brewing. Snyder, the pretzel company.
Yeah, but I hope it's got pretzels in it.
Look, I mean,
No, no,
what
no.
goes better with a good Oktoberfest but a nice salty pretzel?
I agree with that. I would love to see him make a Marzen that has a pretzel character to it naturally through the grains,
Okay,
but
well,
not just
this
throw a bunch of Snyder pretzels in there and call it a pretzel beer. That's kind of
so there are no notes on the Untapped page, but the most recent check-in from this person who checked into this beer, solid. Wasn't expecting any notes of pretzel, but it's definitely there. Look, if
it's
a
just a
pre
bready. It's just a bready notes, right?
right,
And
right.
and maybe, uh,
And it's definitely like the color of a pretzel. It's got
mhm. Yeah,
that light brown to
amber.
it.
Yeah,
But yeah, but Chad wrote seemed like a normal Oktoberfest at first, but there is some salt on the finish,
okay.
giving it a little bit of a pretzel vibe. 4 cap rating. I mean, look, if I can get it, Captain Lawrence, we see Captain Lawrence here.
Yeah. No, I
So
would drink it if, again, like I said, if it was truly a beer that was brewed in a way that gave you the flavor of like pretzels with a little bit of salt in there, I could
mhm.
dig that. I just don't want. I don't want to hear about any more beers that people put cereal and junk in. I'm done with that. None of those beers are good. Not one of them have I ever tried. And I've tried a few here locally that are done. I've given up. I refuse. If I see that any
Giving up.
adjunct is added like cereal, I just not going to buy it. I'm not going to get a
Well,
taste or
no,
anything. Not going
Denny,
to feel
you and I are very much just like I have ebbs and flows with
it. Mm.
buying from Tavor. Let's buy locally. Buying from Tavor. Let's buy locally. You and I are very much in a let's just have some beer flavored beer
Yeah,
kind of stuff
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm totally all about that. The most adjuncts that I have right now, coffee and vanilla. And I don't even know if
It's
there's
lacking
even
in
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah. And right now there is no coffee.
It dropped
Um,
out. Yeah, coffee's
yeah.
one of those ones you have to drink that beer fairly quick, or it starts to lose that coffee flavor very, very quickly.
Okay, the hop farm is 50 minutes from the house. It sounds like the family's going to have to
You need to make a
take a
tour. Yeah,
trip.
yeah. Go
We
make a
have to
trip and
have to
and and tour it.
take a trip to the hop farm. Okay, I got a couple more to go here, and then we're going to call it. John WC is drinking a Spooky Tooth Imperial Pumpkin Ale, and I say it that way because my buddy Josh used to say it like that. From Fatheads Brewery, decent syrupy and malty with good cinnamon spice and creamy vanilla. 4 cap rating for that beer. Fatheads out of Ohio. I gave that beer a 3.75 a couple of years ago. Mr. Jeff Seiler is drinking the Paulaner, how the hell we say that now, the Oktoberfest beer. And he says, delicious Oktoberfest, malty, bread, and so crushable. You get a great deal with this beer. You get a Paulaner Oktoberfest mug and a liter can of beer, which is 2 pints. That fits perfectly inside the mug, and it only costs $7.50.
Really?
$7.50. You get a whole liter along with a cup, a
I,
mug, a glass.
I saw one of those boxes at the co-op and I didn't even look at it because man, I have enough damn mugs of I just don't have anywhere to put it.
So
But
here's
for
what,
750, I would buy it for 750.
and look, give the mug to somebody. I don't know,
Yeah.
but what what I found is that when I'm realizing that I have too many glasses, Denny, I find the ones that are starting to fade and
Mm-hmm.
work their way out or have just sat in the back of the cabinet, and I get rid of them. So I have more room for new cups.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to rotate my cups through. So I even busted out this last week. I busted out one of my old Samuel Adams pint
Oh,
glasses. I had two of them. I had a 20-ounce one and a 16-ounce one, and Sarah, or 24-ounce one, whatever the bigger one was. Sarah broke that one, but I still have the 16-ounce one. That's still this. I had that beer glass for like 15 years, I think.
wow.
Had it for a long time, but
Well,
I even
that's
broke that one out this week because I'm just trying to rotate through some old glasses.
yeah. Well, it's nice. You get a little nostalgia to go along with it. Um, Eric Gronley, I love it because it's Oktoberfest season. Eric Gronley is drinking a Rocktoberfest by Bald Man Brewing at GHQ, and what we all found out was that it's Gronley headquarters. Flavor is caramel and baked bread, light spice on the hops, in the finish. Prost. 4 cap rating on that beer, and I'm going to refresh for the fun of it. And that's what everybody's drinking.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about what I'm drinking. I am now drinking the Boneyard Beer RPM IPA, old school West Coast IPA. Nice, big, citrus, piney notes, everything you want on a West Coast. A little bit of dankness in there too, with some little bit of resin, but not overly resiny, not sticky, not too sticky, not cloying. Just a fantastic beer. I even taste a little bit, maybe even some melon in there. What's up with that?
That's a good flavor that I
Yeah,
don't get in a lot of hops. Well,
yeah,
kind of like our New World section of hops that we were talking about the other day. You don't get a lot of melon flavors in those.
yeah,
There's some, but not as much as we used to, especially with those, those West Coast hops.
yeah. But again, Boneyard Beer. I've mentioned them many times on the podcast, and now they're distributing to Boise. So you'll be hearing me talk a lot more about the beers. The problem is I've already had all these beers because I stop by every time I drive through Bend when I'm in Oregon. I always go through and we stop at Boneyard and drink. So I've had pretty much most of their beers that they offer. But it doesn't matter. I'm now going to buy them in 6-packs and enjoy them, while I'm drinking my other stuff. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. Okay, Chris. Well, now it's time for the Brew Buzz. And the Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. And this week, as we already mentioned, we will be talking about the history of home brewing in the United States, the U.S. Not in other countries, just in the U.S., because this is a fairly young country. So now this information can be found all over the internet. And I took the information that we're going to be talking about from 4 different sites mainly. And if I took information of a decent amount from any of these, I went ahead and listed them. So there's 4 of them. A Brief History of American Homebrewing, the Foundation of Craft Beer. This is an article that was on vinepair.com, written by Kat Wolinski. The History of Homebrewing in America, Part 1 and Part 2, found on the Adventures of Homebrewing website, written by David Ackley. The American Homebrewers Association celebrates 40 years of homebrewing, found on the Brewers Association website. And the last one, The Day Homebrewing Was Legalized, found on Craft Beer and Brewing website, written by Libby Murphy. So a lot of different articles that kind of cover a lot of the topics that we'll be discussing in this segment. So first off, we need to answer a couple questions, common questions that get asked about homebrewing in America. Now this was kind of mentioned when the show you missed when Jim came on and helped me out with the the Sierra Nevada beer tasting segments. We kind of somehow we got on the conversation of homebrewing and when it was legalized and everything. And I was pretty adamant that it was Jimmy Carter in 1978 or whatever I said.
Eisenhower?
No, Jimmy Carter. Well, let's
Sorry,
just go ahead.
go ahead. I was just thinking out loud again.
All right. So is home brewing legal? Just get these questions out of the way right now. Yes, home brewing is legal in the U.S. as long as you brew less than 100 gallons per adult, 200 gallons per household. So if you have more than one adult home brewing, that household can only do a max of 200 gallons per year. You can drink your home brew yourself. You can even share it with your friends and trade it with other home brewers. But keep in mind, it is illegal to sell your home brew without a license.
Not illegal to trade for it, though.
Not to trade, but to sell it. Yeah. So you can't be giving people tickets to come in and drink your beer.
No, I can sell you, or I can trade you this pencil for $50, and then I can give you this this keg of beer.
Okay. Yeah. So whatever you can work out, just so you know. All right. And the second question that gets asked by a lot of people that are, that is new to home brewing is home brewing safe? So beer has been brewed and consumed for centuries as a way of making sure water is safe to drink. Homebrew might make you feel the effects of the alcohol within, but it will not do serious harm when consumed responsibly. Key phrase, when consumed responsibly. It can still kill you if you drink too much, but if you drink it in moderation, it won't kill you, at least right away. Any mistakes made during the brewing process will not produce life-threatening side effects due to them being eliminated during the brewing process. The acidity and alcohol in the finished beer further reduces any harmful reactions. Homebrewed beers are still susceptible to infection from poor sanitations and errant bacteria. These will not harm you, just make the beer unpleasant to drink. If the beer smells or tastes odd, it is best to dispose of it and start over.
That's a
And
sad day.
yeah, it's a sad day. But the key is unlike moonshine or distilling, home distilling,
Make
that
you
will kill you.
blind, son.
Yeah, that can kill you, make you. I mean, it can make you blind, but it can also kill you if you drink too much of the bad alcohol that's in there. So that is dangerous. This is not as dangerous. The worst you can get is maybe get some runs.
Yeah.
Maybe have some bad taste. Maybe beer that you have to throw away. Maybe exploding bottles. Things like that. That's not gonna. That might ruin your day, but it's not going to kill you or cause any, long-term effects. So, yes, home brewing is safe. All right, Chris. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go into the early history of home brewing in the United States. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Sure. Homebrewing wasn't legal in all 50 states until 2013. Alabama and Mississippi were the last to take the plunge. This was 35 years after homebrewing was federally legalized and 80 years after the 1933 repeal of Prohibition. Brewing beer at home is not only a stepping stone for professional brewers, it is the very foundation on which the craft beer industry is built. I mean, hell, that's why John brews beer.
Yeah.
According to the director of the American Homebrewers Association, Gary Glass, homebrewing began in America when English colonists first settled in the New World. However, far before Europeans arrived, studies showed indigenous peoples in Mexico were using grass akin to modern maize to make beer, as well as over 40 different alcoholic beverages from a variety of plant substances such as honey, palm sap, wild plum, and pineapple. That sounds like a hell of an IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous people were indeed the first homebrewers in the Americas. In the early days of the American colonies, brewer's malt was one of the first. Oh, I'm sorry. I went on a brewer shirts tangent. Brewer shirts was one of the first to. Where'd I go? I completely lost my track where I was reading.
Start over it in the early days of American culture.
There it is. In the early days of the American colonies, brewer's malt was one of the most important commodities. The colonists carried copious amounts of malt and hops as well as beer. They brought it with them from Europe to the New World. Sanitation wasn't well understood, so beer, which is boiled in the brewing process, and other alcoholic beverages were considered safer to drink than water. Sweet. Mm-hmm. It was a matter of necessity to have a steady supply of beer.
I love that.
I grew up in the wrong century. Many households arriving from Europe brought along the necessary equipment for making beer at home. Numerous records show that the wealthiest families developed fairly sophisticated brew houses, though certainly there were families who were less well off and who made do with more basic beer making equipment. Mm-hmm. Many of the New World settlers set out immediately to find ingredients that could be used for brewing. This led many of them to discover the local maize, though it wasn't long before barley, wheat, rye, and hops were planted throughout the colonies. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, Thomas Jefferson wrote about the beer that was brewed at his home in Monticello, using the resources produced at his farm and in the surrounding area. Brewing at home was often the responsibility of women. In fact, Thomas Jefferson's wife brewed 15 gallons of beer every 2 weeks.
Damn.
Tommy could drink. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. How long does it take you to get through 5 gallons of beer?
30 to 45 days.
Yeah.
Anytime I had a 5-gallon keg, it was 40, 30, maybe 30 to 60 days, depending on how big of a beer it was. Which is a lot. It's encouraging that female brewers today are growing in number, both on the professional and hobbyist level. When Prohibition, which was January 17th, 1920, which was the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, came along, Not only was the sale of alcohol illegal, but also making beer or wine at home. Homebrewing was dead, or was it? Prohibition did little to stop homebrewing. It's estimated that Americans brewed over 700 million with an M gallons of homemade beer in 1929.
Yeah, is that amazing or what? That's a lot of beer.
That's
Homebrewing.
that's insane. On December 5th, 1933, the 21st Amendment repealed prohibition. Winemaking was legalized. However, the repeals legislation mistakenly left out the legalization of home beer making. So making your own beer with an ABV that was greater than 0.5%, so a half a percent,
Yeah.
that remained illegal.
Amazing, huh? How'd they leave out home beer making?
Get out
Wine
of
was
here.
okay, but beer wasn't?
You put like a piece of fruit in water and let it sit for 2 weeks outside. It'll ferment higher than a half a percent ABV.
Yeah. So fascinating, right? This is a nice little history lesson into, into the, beer home brewing in the colonies in the United States, prohibition coming along and home brewing becoming huge illegally. So, and then prohibition ending and they forget to make home brewing legal. Amazing. How could that happen? How could that happen?
Oh, we totally forgot to do that.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about the reemergence of homebrewing. So by the 1970s, America's breweries had grown, consolidated, and drastically reduced the variety of beer in the U.S., resulting in the dismal beer landscape that existed from Prohibition. It was up to the few remaining homebrewers to resurrect the lost beer styles and build interest in craft beer. On October 14, 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed Bill H.R. 1337 that explicitly legalized brewing beer at home and creating an exemption from taxation of that beer brewed for personal use or family use. 2 months later, the American Homebrewers Association, also known as the AHA, was founded by Charlie Papazian and Charlie Matson. Papazian is known as the godfather of homebrewing and in industry circles, and is also credited with founding the Brewers Association, which is also called the BA, and the Great American Beer Festival. During these early stages of the modern brewing renaissance, there were a number of resources published that allowed homebrewers to learn about brewing and beer styles. Papazian published The Complete Joy of Homebrewing in 1984. Several of the early brewing books are still popular today. Some states have some pretty prohibitive laws concerning homebrewers. While laws in some states are actively enforced and prosecuted, many times they are overlooked, which probably depends a lot on how much of a problem they become in the community, complaints by other citizens, and other factors. One issue lawmakers say gets in the way of changing laws is that there are just so many people wanting to get new laws in the books, and they have to prioritize. Homebrewers getting to brew might not be at the top of that list of laws to change, but they're also not at the top of the list of laws to enforce either. So, Chris, here's a bunch of different interesting laws. These are some interesting laws that have plagued or have been in the books for homebrewers and craft beer lovers from the past and present. Now, this list was updated in like 2016, so there might be a few things that have changed, but for the most part, this is still in effect. So take that sip and then start reading off some of these interesting state laws.
I'm sure they're great, especially because I saw the state Utah in one of them. So here we go. Some states allow brewers to do their thing, but have restrictions on the alcohol by volume or the ABV or their alcohol by weight, ABW. There probably isn't an ABV inspector running from house to house with a hydrometer to make sure brewers are in compliance. Like, really? Who's going to tell you that? I'm sorry, sir, you've made now 207 gallons of beer. It is now time for you to stop home brewing and pay taxes on the other 7 gallons. However, You probably don't want to go live on Facebook to show off your super boozy 19% ABV Imperial IPA because 120 minute IPA is like the best. Hope you and Kevin are doing well, Amanda. If you're in a state with ABV restrictions in Tennessee and Mississippi, it's illegal to brew anything more than 10% ABV. In West Virginia, 12%. Washington, D.C., 14%. In North Carolina, 15%. South Carolina, 17.5%. Oklahoma, 3.2% alcohol by weight with the proper state issued permit. That surprises me with Oklahoma.
Yeah, so I think this one is one that got reprised. I think Buck Buchanan mentioned that it got changed in the
homebrewers, though, right?
Yeah, but it's homebrew. It's homebrewers and actual craft breweries as well.
Well, we'll look up. Well, when you get into yours, I'll start checking in on that. Next one, Utah didn't legalize homebrewing until 2009, Oklahoma 2010, and Alabama and Mississippi until 2013. However, Mississippi still has cities and counties that are considered dry, where no alcoholic beverages are allowed.
So it's interesting is that Oregon, one of the towns I lived in Oregon, Monmouth in Oregon, it's a dry town.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's still dry today, but it's basically Monmouth and Independence are side by side. Independence you can drink and whatever, no big deal. You can buy and drink there, but Monmouth, which is literally one road separating them, you can't. And these are small towns of less than 10,000 people.
And there was always those guys that went, I can drink over here and I'm going to run across the street. Look at me, I'm drinking, breaking the law, and run across the street again. Yeah.
But it was because Monmouth had the state educational college there.
Oh, okay.
And that's why they were preventing, they didn't want to have a bunch of frat parties going on and, but it's just weird because when I grew up over there, I worked in a town in Monmouth and we'd all just go over to Independence, and get wasted or whatever. And it was fun. Okay.
You just had to walk across the street and get wasted.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's continue on with some of these because these are getting good. In many states, you can brew up to 200 gallons. We talked about this earlier of home brew a year if 2 adults live on the premises and only 100 if you're single. Another reason to get married, guys. Mm-hmm. Connecticut allows for 100 gallons for 2-person households and 50 gallons for 1-person households. Connecticut's really kind of sticking it to you there.
Yeah.
Delaware doesn't have a requirement for the number of adults who live in the household, but limits the brew capacity to 200 gallons. All right. Well, I hope my brother doesn't start home brewing anytime soon because it's just him and his wife. So he's got to keep it under 200 gallons. Brewers in Idaho, Denny, you guys are restricted to using native grown products to brew with. They too, as you two, are also restricted to 100 gallons for a single person household and 200 gallons for a double person household. So when, which will never happen, you start home brewing, you're only allowed to make 200 gallons a year.
Yeah, I probably won't make more than that. But it's funny that it's restricted to native grown products to brew with. I mean, so I don't think, again, laws that aren't adhered to. Who's going to come and verify that the malt you bought at the homebrew shop, homebrew stuff or Brewer's Haven? I mean, they're buying stuff that's outside of the
certainly. Well. Yeah, well, it's like if I don't know what laws are like in Idaho, but like when I lived in Ohio, if you wanted to go buy things like fireworks. Mm-hmm. When you walked into the shop, they said, okay, well, where are you taking these? Where are you going to be setting these off?
I'm going to Michigan.
I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to West Virginia. Okay. And if you walked in and said, oh yeah, I'm just setting them off at the house, like over in the next town. And they go, okay, you have to leave. Yeah. So
you're not welcome here.
Yeah. Don't ever come back. Iowa has 2 classifications to consider. Beer is 5% ABW, which is that alcohol by weight or lower. Mm-hmm. And high alcoholic content beer is higher than ABW. I feel like I'm reading like a spec sheet here. If you're looking to get creative with your flavors, you'll want to check out the statute itself for restricted ingredients. They get pretty specific. And forget having a homebrew bottle share. You can't exchange bottles at all, nor can you transport more than 5 gallons at a time. I'm having a bottle share in Iowa just because I can.
Yeah. Damn Bible Belt.
Geez. We've got a training location there. I'll go see Ryan. I have a beer share. Colorado lawmakers finally introduced House Bill 1084 that allowed those who are not head of household to brew beer. Is it like the person who claims it on their taxes, or is it just like the person who says that they are head of the household? Yeah. Can that designation change from day to day?
Well, they probably have a defined head of household.
I'm sure they do.
Male of a certain age, and
Colorado, you sexist bastards. All right, the family that brews together stays together. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Up until a few years ago, New Jersey homebrewers had to apply for and pay for a license. Of course they did. It's New Jersey. From the state to brew a beer at home. The homebrew community rallied against that, and it was repealed. Yeah. It's against the law in all states to use the United States Postal Service to send beer. I don't do that, allegedly. UPS and FedEx allow you to send it as long as you have a special permit to do so, which is limited to homebrewers who want to enter competitions or to those who just want to send a bottle or two to a friend. That's why I don't send beer in the mail or through FedEx or UPS. I believe when William Schlemmer sent us gifts, he wrote it down as olive oil and certain things. So
don't rat out Will.
I look, nothing. I didn't rat him out for anything. He sent us some wonderful, delicious olive oils that were wonderful accents to a lot of meals that I've made.
I think he sent us some yeast samples.
Well, there's yeast samples all around us, Denny. But the olive oil was fantastic. Thank you, William. Good, yeah. Which is limited to homebrewers who want to send some to a friend. In fact, many states have restrictive transport laws. In Tennessee, you can't brew more than 5 gallons at a friend's house and then drive it home, for example, because any more than that is for purposes of distribution.
Yeah.
These are good.
It's more restrictive than marijuana, I think.
Yeah, well, 5 gallons, an ounce, it's a little different. But so there's a lot of fun laws. Yeah. And reading some of those, it kind of irritated me to know that, people's tax dollars went to developing things like that. But hey,
Well, it was done way back in the 1800s.
I'm sure.
So the tax dollars were a lot less. It was like $1 a year. Back then, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, but that's thousands of dollars a year now with inflation.
Yeah, true.
All right.
Well, that is our topic of homebrewing history in the U.S. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and be grateful that we do have this available to us now, because even in 1933, it was illegal to brew beer until 78. All right, I'm pouring my last beer of the night. This is my Sierra Nevada Oktoberfest. Are you still nursing that?
I'm still sipping on this stout. Look, man, I had 22 ounces of this to go through.
Yeah,
my bottle's empty, I think.
Okay,
yeah, my bottle's empty, and as you can already tell, I've had plenty of beers that I'm just fine sipping on this thing.
Okay, so Chris, it's now time for our new and early beer. But you mentioned before we started recording that it was a light session for you.
Yeah, a lot of drinking, or a lot of beers that I had this past couple of weeks were either just, I had to finish up all that space dust that was buy one get one free at the local Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. And then everything else was, stuff that I'd already checked in before. So I didn't really grab a hold of anything that was just, oh my gosh, I really got to tell you about this. So let's hear about some of your new and noteworthy beers, Denny.
Okay, let's do it. I have 5 because Chris was slacking off.
Good.
I could have had 10. I drank a lot of good beer in the last 2 weeks, but I limited it to the five that I want to talk about that I need to share with all of our listeners out there. The first one I'm going to talk about is Mountains Walking Brewery, and we've mentioned Mountain Walking.
They're out of
A few
Montana, I
times, right?
believe.
Montana.
Yep.
And it just so happens last episode we had a little conversation about how I love black currant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And this one is called Sweets Black Currant Cheesecake Fruited Sour. Now, honestly, I am. I mean, I kind of enjoy these fruited sours, but I'm kind of getting tired of the gimmicky.
You're getting burnt out on them.
Yeah.
Me
But
too.
when I saw black currant, as soon as I see black currant, I'm like, oh, I gotta have it. I love black currant. And in cheesecake, I'm a big fan of cheesecake. So let me see what this is. I had very low expectations that this was going to be a good beer. And then I opened it, poured it, beautiful coloring, like a really purplish colored beer, super thick. I mean, like syrupy thick.
Oh,
but also very flavorful and refreshing. And it tasted like you were eating a fruit covered cheesecake.
no
And
kidding.
it was absolutely fantastic. Here's what I said on Untappd. I said, oh my God, this smells just like cheesecake, tastes like cheesecake with black currant syrup. And then I also mentioned in episode 187, I tell how much I love black currant. So when I saw this beer, I had to grab it. Not a huge fan of pastry beers, but this one rocks.
Was there lactose in it? Sorry for interrupting that wonderful rating.
No, there was vanilla.
Okay.
There was vanilla, black currants. There was a few things in it. I don't how they can remember, but there was things in it, but no lactose. I don't believe there's no lactose. 5 cap rating, an incredible beer that not only did I enjoy, but Sarah just fell in love with this beer, and she ended up drinking almost half of the beer in my glass. It was really good. You know what, Chris? I think you've had some Mountains Walking.
I sure have.
And I've had some, and I've enjoyed everything I've had from them. I know our listeners have had, even Jeff Seiler, I think, or, people I think Jeff Seiler had some of these as well. And man, I'll tell you, these beers are fantastic. You know what? Let me check because I think Jeff might have commented. No, sorry. No, he didn't comment on that one. Okay. But yeah, Sweets. It's called Sweets Black Currant Cheesecake Fruited Sour 5 cap rating.
So I want to say the ones that I've had from them have been that Sweets kind of line also.
Okay.
So that sounds awfully familiar, and I'm gonna take a peek while you're reading the next one. Yeah,
they're good. You don't want to have more than one, right? It's heavy enough where you want to have one, enjoy it, and then move on to something lighter. And that's what I did. I had this, and then I went back to my lager and drank some lagers that were nice and light and refreshing.
Yeah, their peach cobbler was their Sweets, and that did have toasted oats, lactose, and they used actual cobbler crumble from a local bakery called Wild Crumb.
Okay.
And I do remember it was thick.
Yeah, this was thick too. This is super thick. It was, but it wasn't off-putting. It wasn't too sweet. I don't know. It was just done. It was well balanced and done really well for as much as it was. It was really, really well done. All right. The next beer I'm going to talk about is one that my buddy Alex Fuchs brought back to me from Israel when he was here last trip. It's from HaDubim Brewery. I've talked about HaDubim. This is the brewery that Ariel Druck worked at when he and I first met, and he brought me a bunch of beers, and we drank, got wasted, drank until the early mornings of the day, and I don't even remember getting back to the hotel room, but I somehow ended up getting to work the next day without a problem, so it all works out well. But this one's called the VMASH Citra, and this is a session IPA, and what I wrote on Untappd about this one is I have always enjoyed the beers from HaDubim. Glad my buddy Alex is keeping me up to date with the new offerings. Citrus with a bit of ripe mango, adding some dankness to the beer. For a session beer, this is solid. Thanks, Alex. 4.25 rating. 4.25 is a high rating for a session IPA because I don't typically like session IPAs. But this one had it wasn't too light bodied. It had good flavor, and it held true to what it was. Basically a Citra session, but with a lot of flavor, and I really enjoyed it. So 4.25 from this Israeli brewery. The next one, you asked, how about those wet hop or fresh hop beers? I've had a couple that are on this list right now. The first one I'm going to talk about is from Occidental Brewing out of Portland, Oregon. It's called their Fresh Hop Pilsner, the 2021 version. Really nice earthy spice hop flavor, complementing this bready malt base for a pleasant beer. 4.25 rating. I think this is a fantastic use of wet hops or fresh hops in a lighter bodied beer like a Pilsner.
Mm.
The Pilsner flavor was there with this very, very pleasant wet hop flavor that was resting on top of that. So you get that like initial hoppiness to it, but it finished with the bready notes and the more Pilsner, not bready, more cereal like notes of the malt and stuff. And I really like this beer a lot. That's why I gave it a 4.25. And the next one is another wet hop beer. This is from Fort George Brewery out of Astoria, Oregon. And this is their Fresh IPA 2021 version. And this is the first fresh hop I had of the season. Now, I feel bad because this is by far the best fresh hop beer I've had yet this year. But I only gave it a 4 cap rating because it was the first one. And I was expecting to have, maybe some better ones. But in reality, this is probably should be rated higher. Maybe I'll change my rating. I don't know. But this one had the best flavors so far in any of the fresh hop beers I've had. Very nice hop flavor IPA with a bunch of different flavors. I get some grassy, melon fruit, and mint all mixed together, each showing up at different times. A nice change from the usual wet hop beers. 4 cap rating. But like I said, by far, this is the best one I've had yet this year. And then the last beer I'm going to talk about is another Idaho brewery. This is from Warfield, which is out of Ketchum, Idaho, by Sun Valley. And this is the Motuiti New Zealand IPA. Notice that all the beers I've talked about I guess I've had 3 IPAs and 1 Pilsner and 1 fruited sour. So I guess I have a variety. But this one is using New Zealand hops. And I get big pineapple and melon fruit flavor with a bit of tangy character as well in the finish. It's a very nice IPA, 4 cap rating. Really enjoyed this beer as well. And there were a number of other 4.25 and 4 cap rating beers that I rated in the last 2 weeks, but these are the ones I wanted to mention that I think people really need to go out and search for if they can, because they're very, very well done. All right, Chris, you know what? There's a check it out thing that I'm going to save for our next episode. Yep. For a couple reasons. One, because I'm only a quarter of the way through the book, and I this is a book that was provided to us promotional, through a promotion to try to get some words on it. But I want to read through the whole thing before I give my take on it. So by the next show, I'll have it all read, and I'm going to give an honest review of it. Tell you the highlights, what it's good for and what's maybe lacking, because that's the way I work. I don't just butter stuff up just because I got it free, fluff it up. It'll be an honest review, but I think I'll save this for the next episode.
There you go.
All right, Chris. With that being said, we're going to make this a shorter show. And now it is time to close the show out. But before we do that, I always want to give us a chance to raise a glass to someone we'd like to raise a glass to. So who would you like to raise a glass to tonight?
So tonight I would like to raise a glass to Florida hop growers because, well, you're giving me a reason to go on a field trip to go explore things. And if you guys happen to hear this, let's talk a little further. But Denny, I do have a couple of people I want to reach out to see if there's anybody out in Florida who are growing hops and things like that might be able to get us a tour, because on their website they don't advertise like, hey, let's do a tour. But the brewery, Zephyr Hills Brewing Company, that we did the Founders Club, the volunteer work with, according to the Florida Hop Growers website, Zephyr Hills Brewing Company is or did use hops from Florida to brew their beers. So I'll have to reach out to Robert and Terry, the former owners of that brewery, to see if they have any contacts there we can talk to.
Okay.
So
Nice.
raise a glass to them. And anybody else? Anybody else? Off the top of my head? No, Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to?
All right, so I'll raise my glass first to our Patreon toast this week, and this is to John Carroll. Thank you for your patronage. We appreciate your support. And then after that, I just want to raise my glass to my buddy Mike Blanchard, who was not able to come see me today, but I hope that we can see each other very soon on his next trip through Boise. And I hope it's sooner than later because I was really looking forward to meeting up with him. So cheers to you, Mike, if you're listening. Thank you for listening. And when I do get back to Oregon, and I never go to Dallas because, okay, here's an interesting thing. So my wife is from Dallas, Oregon, and Mike is from Dallas, Oregon. They both went to high school in the same high school. He was, like I said before, he was a year or two behind Sarah. I didn't go to Dallas High School. I went to Fall City High School, which is a smaller town in the hills between Dallas and the coast. But we all got, we kind of mixed together because, he joined, he joined the Navy and was stationed on board my submarine at the same time I was. If he came a little bit later than I did, and we met up, and I saw that he had a Dallas like knapsack at one of our training things. And I said, where are you from? And he said, Dallas, Oregon. And that's just like, holy smokes, nobody's from Dallas, Oregon. So it was like a really nice thing, and we became friends. And I, like I said, the last time I saw him was at his wedding, and so it's been way too long, and I feel bad. But the one good thing about being on Facebook, which I'm not really on Facebook because I don't do anything with it except for the podcast, but it does allow people to find me, and I've been reunited with people over the last few years that I've been on Facebook without me even having to try, which has been really nice. So I really appreciate that. So cheers to you, Mike. Let's meet up. And of course, as I just mentioned, being a former serviceman, I always want to raise my glass and thank all those who have served and are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. Cheers to you, and come home safely to your families very soon. One more toast I want to give to. I've been meaning to do this, and I keep forgetting, and now I just remembered. Johan Halberg, a patron, great supporter, writes into the show all the time. I have to raise my glass to. I don't know if you've seen all his posts on Instagram, but he's building a real brewery.
Yeah.
In his shed out back. It's amazing, and he's making beer that looks absolutely delicious and crystal clear, amazing looking beers. I'm so happy for Johan, and I can't wait that one day I have this gut feeling that he's going to be a brewer, like a real commercial brewer in Sweden. So cheers to you, Johan. Also, I've been meaning to do that, and I forgot to mention that. So I just wanted
Skull.
Skull. All right, Chris, why don't you go ahead and raise a glass to our sponsors?
Certainly can do that. At the forefront of the craft beer movement, Brewer Shirts was one of the first to create apparel that celebrates the art of brewing and the love of fine beer. Never too trendy, always comfortable, and offering affordable quality, they screen print their gear by hand in their studios using eco-friendly inks, materials, and processes. Visit their online store at brewershirts.com and use the coupon code TAPTHECRAFT2020 to receive 15% off full price items.
Okay, Chris, have you come up with the idea for the last contest?
Yeah, Denny, you know what I absolutely love for people to do? Do you know my favorite way for people to contact us?
Voicemail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Voicemail. Now, I think for voicemail, as much as I do like it, why should we give you this gift card? If you are slightly impaired because you imbibed too heavily.
So we want drunk voicemails.
Which is my, I guess, politically correct way of saying have a few beers and drunk dial us. Let's see what happens. And you know what? Let's just see what happens. If it really comes down to it, or we get like two, we're going to take it out of our list of Patreon supporters and, kick that gift card out to them. So here's what we're going to do. Send us a voicemail. Our voicemail number
20853 oddly.
Yeah, 20853 oddly, or it's going to be there for you guys to win. But again, if we just get like one or two people who kick in a voicemail, I'm tossing all of our Patreon supporters in there too. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, call our voicemail line, leave us a voicemail.
If you are a Patreon supporter, you can still leave a voicemail. You're getting it twice.
Okay, see, rules are happening. So again, it's 208-536-3359, 208-536-3359. Give us a call. Tell us why we should give you the voicemail. If it's fun and funny, it might increase your chances. Oh, yeah, voicemail. Yeah. Why we should give you...
You need another beer.
Why we should give you this gift card. Let me finish. Hang on. Let me finish.
You're still drinking the first beer. I'm down to my last of my third beer.
Of your third beer of what?
Of today.
No, your third beer of what? Your Oktoberfest. You had what? Your Boneyard
one. The old Boise.
Which was how big?
16 ounces and I don't know.
4 or 5%.
Yeah, 4.
Okay, tell me about your Boneyard.
Boneyard is now the nice thing about Boneyard, they don't make huge IPAs. It's like probably 5,
6
or 6.5.
Okay.
6.5.
Okay. Now tell me about your Oktoberfest. What are you at, 5 or 6% on that one too?
I think it's like 5.5 as well. 5.5, yeah.
Let me tell you about my 10.4% 22-ounce bottle here that I've been nursing, along with the 8.2% double IPA that I had from Elysian before we started. So I'm good.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so guys, give us a call on our voicemail, and we'll give you guys a $20 gift card to Brewer shirts.
All right, sounds good.
What was that?
Yeah. And you can find the beers and the links to all those articles I mentioned on the show in the show notes located on the show post at tapthecraft.com. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at Loose Screw. And Chris, how can our listeners follow you?
Well, you can certainly never find me on Twitter at Chris_McKenzie82 unless you are a company that I'm trying to talk shit to. You can find me also on Untapped and Instagram at MCK1345, and always on everything social at Tap the Craft.
All right. It is last call. Time to bring the show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading and listening, and we ask you to please tell a friend, and of course, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, Google Play, CastBox, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and now on Amazon Podcasts, or however you listen to your podcast. As a reminder, we release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.